Tonight on Ground Crew Command Radio, we get into, well, we certainly clear up the whole Pope public admission that he worships Lucifer. We're going to clear that one up once and for all. And we're also going to get into some of the interesting info that's been leaked from the recent Contact in the Desert presentation, expo, whatever you want to call it, by David Wilcock. We're going to get into what kind of a game Trump is really playing here. What's he really up to? Because sometimes it looks like he's doing good, sometimes it looks like he's doing bad. We're going to get down to the bottom of that and help bring clarity to bear regarding all of that, because understandably it's a little confusing. We're also going to get into some very exciting details about what's happening against the deep state. Things really seem to be getting cleaned out now, further and further. It's kind of like disclosure. It's like that exponential growth curve that's growing higher and higher as time goes on. And we're also, our special guest tonight is Richard Yap. Now, I'm very excited about this because we're going to get into a very interesting result he's been getting with what's called light alchemy technology, with amazing results with his Gridwork and for people personally, for their revolution. Very exciting stuff. This is the Unknown Light Warrior, coming up tonight on Ground Crew Command Radio. That's right, folks. Lots of interesting news tonight, and we've got a lot to fit in today. And one thing I do want to mention, very importantly, is a special meditation that's going on. Let me see here. Let me just bring up the details. Ooh, loads. I've got a lot of notes. It's sort of lost in all of the notes here. So let me just scroll down. Let me see here. Here we go. Okay. An important announcement to kick things off. Tomorrow morning, there's an important meditation at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The 25th of May, okay, is a very important date. And the light forces are using what's called AVTOR, AVTOR technology very intensely right now in order to deal with the plasma accretion vortexes, which I suppose disappointingly only Cobra is the one, has been the only intel source that's given us given the public any information or intel on plasma accretion vortexes. You can go to his website and do a search for plasma accretion vortexes to read a couple of articles on that. Very important knowledge to get out there, especially if you're a powerful energy worker. Definitely go out and do this. And we can help them out by supporting them with our global meditation. Now, for more information about this meditation, go to prepareforchange.net. That's prepareforchange.net. And click on the post on the right that says 25// 5 portal meditation. So May 25th portal meditation. Okay, should be on the right, that post. And now we get into some of the ways you can prepare to do grid work and facilitate your own healing and preparation for ascension. And tachyon chambers expose you to very high vibrating tachyon particles that many people have had visions from as a result of, I don't know if it's from the result from their first session or second or third, but they have had visions come to them. Others have experienced physical healing based on what we've been told. And nearly all have accelerated their soul path and started doing more soul path work after doing a few sessions in the tachyon chamber. And as far as that's concerned, there's 2 chambers in the USA that I personally highly recommend. One is Tachyon Counseling in Virginia, which I've been at myself, run by Joseph McNamara, Dr. Joseph McNamara in Waynesboro, Virginia. So just Google Tachyon Counseling in Virginia, should bring him up. And Leader Creek Mercantile in South Dakota, just outside Eagle Butte in South Dakota, run by Cynthia Charger, a wonderful friend. Stayed at her place for a while as well. That's Leader Creek Mercantile in South Dakota. And if you have questions about, where you can find a tachyon chamber in your area, just visit returntoyourtruth.com and send them an email. Return to Your Truth is our sponsor, of course, keeps this radio going. And to send an email through Return to Your Truth, just scroll down the page on the home page, and there's a form box to fill in, and they will be happy to refer you to the nearest chamber to you. And of course, one of our teams is preparing for a very important gridwork mission in the USA, which will benefit us all. And we're inviting investors to fund and complete this work. If you would like to participate and find out more about this project or become an investor to finance an operation or two, please visit returntoyourtruth.com and click on Gridwork at the top navigation bar. So that's just an important announcement to get out of the way. May 25th is a very big deal of a date. Let's just, consolidate on huge successes we've been continually having almost every second month for the past few years, especially the 26th of February 2017 solar lunar eclipse meditation. That was a huge breakthrough that closed the primary auric tear in Gaia's aura over Africa, which meant, negative entities could no longer be, numbers of negative entities could no longer be continually reconstituted through that tear in Gaia's aura. And now we really do have a very finite number of negative entities on the non-physical planes, and that number is just really dropping fast all the time. So it really is the classic old case of never give up. We've heard that maxim 1,000 times before in the past. It really is a case of that. So May 25th, okay, is to support the AVTOR technology, AVTOR, that you can find out more about on Cobra's blog, which I'll give out at the end of the session, to really intensely deal with the plasma accretion vortexes on the plasma plane. So go ahead, once again, to know the precise time. Well, it's 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the US, but to for the guided audio and visual of this meditation, it's at prepareforchange.net, and click on the post on the right that says 25/5 portal meditation. Really critical. It's another case of all hands on deck. This is what we're here for. This is what we're here to do. Join the army of light. So that's that. Important announcement out of the way. As always, we're going to get the in-depth analysis and make sense of everything in the last half an hour of this show. And until then, we're going to be talking about, we're going to find out. We're going to get down to the bottom of what Richard Yap has been up to. Has what he's been doing, has it really revolutionized grid work? And boy, will that help the timeline to the event, let alone the energetic ascension process itself. The more light, as you know, the more light we bring into Gaia, whether it's through liberating vortexes, breaking down the veil further, whether it's through our own fields, which automatically occurs when you heal and clear yourself, do your internal work. And I'll give you a great resource for that later on. Whichever way it is, this is the crux of what our job, surface light workers incarnated on this plane, physical plane, this is what our job is, okay? To bring in more and more light, more and more through these various basic methods, to just greatly quicken and greatly smooth the timeline to the event and the event itself. Okay, huge, big deal. So that's another big reason why it's quite exciting to have Richard on. Now, I'm going to quickly read out Richard's bio, just quickly. Richard comes from a 22-year corporate background and has been on his personal spiritual journey for nearly 40 years. He's a master of light alchemy and travels the world with his partner Sian to sacred sites doing light activation and firing up new light grids. He's currently spiritually mentoring billionaires to be and is co-creating 3 world-changing conscious global businesses, not including his own. He trained as a character-first coach, Tony Buzan advanced trainer, creator of quantum mapping, master NLP, professional speaker, fatherhood expert, and is a quantum transition coach. He has developed a transformational consciousness coaching program that is unique and teaches light workers spiritual abundance. He is passionate about doing spiritual work in Hawaii, is moving there to begin the light work on the islands, especially Maui. This is where the sacred light temple from the Lemuria is returning in 10 years' time, and we're going to get into that little detail. So let me just bring on Richard now, because as you can imagine, we've certainly got a lot to talk about, and only so much time to do it in. I mean, the news is definitely going to take at least half an hour alone. So, Richard, I've got you live now. Can you hear me?
Hello, Jim. I've got you loud and clear.
Fantastic. Now, I'm not sure what audio setup you have at the moment there. I've just read out your bio, your full bio, before bringing you on. And
yes, I copied all that.
Okay, good. So you were listening to the show. I wasn't even sure about that. So
yes, I was.
Anyway, fantastic. Okay, well, first of all, with the bio and your brief history out of the way, we're going to get into, although I know, since you've done this about 40, 50 times by now on other shows. I'm sure you've streamlined your layman's sort of introduction in terms on how to explain what you've been getting up to recently. And I've certainly put the justifiable amount of emphasis of the importance of not just grid work, but internal work, internal healing and clearing, which your technology also helps people with, to bring in more light. The more we bring in, the faster it comes in, and the more or the sooner the event happens and the smoother that it happens. And, we can't stress that enough on this show. So I'm going to let you choose which order you want to sort of begin discussing things with. Either it's just a bit more detail of what you've been doing or what's led you up to the point of discovering this light alchemy technology, or whether you just want to jump into results and then get back into the history of it.
Well, what I'd probably do is just start with a little bit of a background, and I'll just be very brief about that. My partner and CN run on guidance, so we don't do anything unless universe, source, creator guides us to do things. And we find that is really powerful. Both of us get into the Akashic records, and that is a powerful source of our guidance, because when we don't agree on something, we just go off into Akashic records, meditate, get a download, and compare notes. It is really amazing process to cut across any disagreements in relationships. It's really powerful. So in 2012, the first of these lights came into our life called the Lucia light from Austria. And we went there and did the workshop, and we brought it into Australia. We were guided to take the distributorship for Australia and New Zealand. And within 12 months, I put my business background into it. We were the biggest distributors in the world. We had more lamps sold in Australia than anybody else. Then in 2015, a new lamp came on the market, which is called the Pandora Star. So I'm working with that at the moment. And it's a whole lot cheaper. It's a fifth of the cost. The issue with the Lucia is that it's $25,000 US, so it's kind of not really affordable. The Pandora Star is a fifth of the cost. In June 2013, I found that I needed a way to validate the results, because I'm a trained scientist. I got a Bachelor of Science from Melbourne University. And so, an adage is you can't improve what you cannot measure. So I wanted a way to be able to measure and be able to calibrate on shifts that this light could do with people. Because the first 6 months I had people going, wow, this is amazing, etc. And I experienced myself profound shifts. But it becomes anecdotal if you can't measure it. Yeah. So I was looking for something, and I found something called a HeartQuest monitor, which is a complex electrocardiogram. And so I pioneered the combination of that work together. The light technology, the complex electrocardiogram. So I actually can measure and dial into somebody's nervous system once I use these lights. And because I've done so much work on people, I can put people on a tailored series of light sessions to achieve breakthrough results in a whole range of areas: health, academic, relationships, athletic performance, and a whole range of things. And I'm so confident in what I can do for people, I will guarantee results.
Fantastic.
So, and having worked with thousands of people, I know exactly what I'm doing. Now, this light technology is very simple. You sit in front of flashing LED lights with your eyes closed. The computer program runs different frequencies, flash rates, and intensities. And the difference in the flash rates intensities stimulates your third eye, your pituitary gland, your hypothalamus, and your brain. So those three master hormones produce the good glands, the good hormones. So the three most powerful effects are people sleep better, because the pineal gland produces more melatonin at night. Your body's a lot more relaxed. Your nervous system's balanced. And I've got data to show what it does, which is, amazing. And you can cross-reference that with people's results. And not only that, the brain works better. But then on an esoteric level, what happens is people's consciousness shifts. So the best way to describe this light technology is that it is an accelerator. Okay, so it is a powerful accelerator to the mind, to the brain, in whatever you're doing. You still have to do the driving. In other words, you still got to do the work, but what the light does is accelerate the results of that. Now, one issue with these lights is that if you're epileptic or light sensitive, you can't use these lights.
Okay.
And in the future, there'll be technology to overcome that, but it's not here just yet. Then, as I was working with the lamp all through 2013, towards the end of 2013, I started asking questions like, wow, why can't we use this light technology as a light portal to go into other realms and dimensions? So I started asking those questions. Then in November 2013, I put pen to paper of the concept of a sacred light journey, and I got 7 people of my friends in March 2014 to go with me on one of those harebrained ideas and experiments to the big island of Hawaii to do a 3-day sacred light journey, and I didn't have a clue what I was doing. So that's how it all started, and it was really nostalgic. Exactly. It was really nostalgic to go back there last week, 3 years down the track, and having so many sacred light journeys, and then getting inspired to go and take this down to sacred sites and run groups, etc. And so that's how it all started. And so last year was amazing in terms of profound, but the biggest, the tipping point in how all this grid work happened was it culminated in going to New Zealand. Now, New Zealand's a really amazing country because it's the land that receives the first rays of the sun because of where it is. New Zealand is also the center of the creation of sacred places on the planet. When you go back to antiquity, New Zealand is also part of the Lost Continent of Lemuria when it broke up. And so when you look at the Maoris, the Hawaiians, the Aborigines, the Polynesians, there's such a common thread amongst all that island culture that it all links back to antiquity, in the times of Lemuria, etc. And so what happened was we were guided by Spirit to go to New Zealand, and over 12 months, go to the North Island in 2014 and the South Island in 2015 to do activation at 7 sacred sites. And the amazing thing is that people turn up when you do this work. You don't actually have to go find them. So on March 2015, we ended up firing a new light grid over New Zealand. And you go along this journey, and you really got to throw your conscious mind out the window, because I really didn't know what I was doing. I just went along, in blind faith and trusted, and I didn't have a clue what I was going to do until 2 days before the event. But something really significant was that in 2014, when we were up at one of the sacred sites, which is right at the top of the North Island, at the lighthouse at Cape Reinga, there's a plaque up there. And the plaque was put up in 1928, and it had these words in the inscription. And the plaque said this: in 1928, a Maori elder blessed this place and said, "This is sacred land. Spirit goes from here. And sometime in the future, the light will go out to the world from this point." Now, I didn't have a clue what that meant. But 2 weeks later in my meditation, when I got to my Akashic records, the master said to me, that plaque you saw 2 weeks ago up, in Cape Reinga, at the top of the North Island? This is what it means, right? When you come back next year and you fire up a whole new light grid over New Zealand, the light's going to go out from the lighthouse into the world. And that sent chills up my spine. And I went, oh, my God. And so that's exactly what happened. Exactly what happened. We did that. We had Maori elders turn up. We, we had Fire Race Pene, who's one of the most powerful spiritual Maori ladies, who's the custodian of the violet flame, and she lives on the east part of the North Island. And she knew, she could see this light grid when we fired it up in the spirit.
Right.
Extraordinary.
Right.
And since then, things have shifted and changed in New Zealand. right? Over the last couple of years, New Zealand has prospered, the economy's improved, and then when I checked with my Maori elder friends, things have shifted in their life, and New Zealand now has a new prime minister. The one running at the time, who was not there for the interest of the country, in November got stepped down, resigned all of a sudden.
I see.
So stuff like that happens, and that's the first significant one.
Yeah.
Then the next significant one was going. Yeah. The next significant thing was going to Shasta last year in May, coming up here and doing my Sacred Light Journey, doing work, and we had the most amazing time. We had 12 people with us, and we had a group sense of oneness, that love at a level that nobody had experienced before on the planet. It was really, really powerful. And so we went to the Telos portal, did a meditation there, and we went into Telos, connected with them. And what I'd like to do is read to you, right?
Yeah.
Read to you what came out on the Telos portal when I was there, in terms of their message to us, okay? Because I wrote it down.
Awesome.
And two of the ladies actually went into Telos and saw the city and Dharma and so on, etc. It's amazing. This is what they said. This is the 19th of May, 2016, and they spoke to me. I wrote this down. Greetings, loved ones, our light family. Welcome to our world. We have kept ourselves separate as it had been necessary for our survival, as well as waiting for the consciousness of humanity to rise to a level where we can work with you. Yes.
Richard, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Sure enough, there was an interruption in the connection.
Okay. Let me start again.
Halfway through the sentence, and so just start again. We're going to get this out to people, and maintain the direction of your mouth towards the microphone as well.
Okay, I'll start again. So this is from the Telos portal, and I journaled this message from them on the 19th of May, 2016. It went like this. Greetings, loved ones, our light family. Welcome to our world. We've kept ourselves separate as it had been necessary for our survival, as well as waiting for the consciousness of humanity to rise to a level where we can work with you. Our future is your future. It is now time for us to join with you. We were where you are at, only much more highly evolved. We anchor the earth with our light, but that is not enough for the big shift. You have to do your part. This requires you to transcend the 3D matrix world. Shasta is many things to many people. This sacred mountain is pivotal to the future ascension of Mother Gaia. It's like she's one of the main rockets to blast off. Your sacred light journey and the light of the planet is critical. It shifts the frequency of space in your 3D world, where we can interact with you in and at deeper, more profound level. Our world is very real to us, as is your world to you. The gap between the two worlds has been vast, but this has been shifting in both coming together. You can call on us anytime. We don't work like angels and spirits. We are, in a sense, your future selves in a more highly evolved form. Hence, we can help and guide you along the way in your evolution. Now, that was a year ago. I'm back now, and they spoke to me in December and said, we are eagerly waiting for you to come, because we need you to plug us into the new celestial light grid that you fired up in August last year at the Glastonbury tour in Somerset. That leads me to the next story on that one. So, Mount Shasta is the base chakra of the planet.
I see.
The Glastonbury tour is the heart chakra of the planet. That was broken. When we went there, we had one of the ladies with us by the name of Dalis, who's a dowser. So she goes around different planetary sites dowsing and getting readings on that. So when we turned up on a Thursday, she did a reading, and it was negative 98 on a dial. Because what happens is that people go to these sacred sites and they suck energy. So, energy on the sites that become a tourist place go down over time.
Right.
So we did we didn't do the light stuff. We did a healing there. So, I got a download in terms of what we would do with the healing, walk around walk around a certain number of times counterclockwise, walk around clockwise, do some mantras, etc. Then after we did our work, the sun came out, the birds came out, and it was profound. And then when Dallas dialed in and did a measurement, it went from minus 98 to plus 99. And then 2 nights later, we went up there at night. We took our lights and ran a light journey. Now, what happens when I do a light journey is I get a group of people under light, 4 or 6, and then I merge their consciousness together. I have a process using light language to take them into the light zone together. And what I found is that, when more than one people get together and have common intention, the effect energetically at a conscious level is exponential. But when you do that in the light zone and you take the group of people into the light, the effect is exponential upon exponential, which is why when I've done these things, I've seen some amazing changes on the planet as a result of these light journeys. We've seen, miracles happening with people. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, just to clarify, the light zone is within a certain radius around the light alchemy machine.
Well, what happens is that the light zone is okay. What I mean by the light zone is that it's like going into a whole different space. Is what I mean by light zone. It's not actually a physical space around the light. So you got a lamp firing on, say, 6 people underneath the light. They got their eyes closed, and then instead of them just receiving the light and having the light show that you normally see, because you just see a kaleidoscope of color and shapes when you just have light experience, when you take them into the light zone, it's like the whole consciousness shifts to a whole different zone. So that's what I mean by a light zone. And then when you have the group doing that, and you achieve group oneness in the light, it's really powerful. Yeah. And so we did the Glastonbury talk a couple of nights later, at night. And it was amazing. The energy, the power was just something you'll never forget. And when Dallas dialed in the energy, she got over 300 as a result of that. It was huge. Wow. And then
so what are some of the things that have resulted? Go ahead.
From that, well, you can feel the energy of the heart chakra of the Glastonbury tour. So the thing that we did was, that was on like on a Saturday night, and then that Saturday itself, it came to my attention this crop circle that turned up, and and this whole crop circle that turned up for us in Anstey in Somerset, we were staying an hour and a half's drive away from it. So the next day on the Sunday, we drove to this crop circle, spent 3 hours there. And the crop circle was created for us so that they could upload the energies into us for what we were supposed to do that night. And the geometry of the crop circle is very, very symbolic with exactly what we needed to do in terms of messages. Then my partner, Cian, had actually had, she actually had a download on what this was going to look like in Akashic Records. So she actually, had a little bit of a channeling in terms of what this was. She didn't know it was going to be in a crop circle. So she wrote it up in Akashic Records when she dialed into that. And it was amazing when it turned up. And then when Dallas, who does the dowsing, tried to dial in on the energy of the land there in the crop circle, she couldn't get a reading because it was just too powerful. It just was off the charts. Couldn't get a reading at all. Her dowsing rod was spinning like crazy with the energy. And then you go walk around there, like all the hairs on your body stand up on end. It was phenomenal.
that sure is.
So
sure is.
So the results of what happened in August last year in Glastonbury Tour was a new, what I call celestial light grid. The reason why it's celestial was because it's connecting the central sun with the Pleiades star system, Arcturus star system, with 3 sacred sites on the planet, which is Mount Shasta, the Glastonbury Tour, and Lake Taupo. Yeah. So we've now got this 6-pointed grid with 3 points on the planet and 3 points in the heavens. It's kind of like a cosmic Metatron cube, on the outside, as a grid. And then the way you use that is to, is when I do light journeys with people, I do meditation with people, I get them to go and dial into the celestial light grid by first creating the triangle in the heavens, connecting the central sun, Pleiades, Arcturus, and then with the 3 sacred sites down on the planet, which is Mount Shasta, Glastonbury, Tor, and Lake Taupo. And because I've been at all these places, I've done the work, I hold the energy of this light grid with me because I've been there, and I'm the conductor that created the whole thing. And then what I do is I get people to connect the 2 triangles, like in the figure of 8 infinity, and right in the middle is 0 point. Now that 0 point in this celestial light grid is now the area that gives the point, the 0 point, the portal that gives us access to the Pleiadians, Arcturians to work with us. And so the Lemurians in Telos want me to plug them into this celestial light grid, and that'll take their work to our level.
That is such critical work, Richard, because as many of us know, these kinds of connections and non-physical grids were deliberately dismantled and removed.
Exactly.
From about 26,000 years ago. And now, obviously, people such as yourself are receiving the right guidance, acting on that guidance, restoring those connections, which is a critical part of the overall, let's just call it, helps facilitate the most positive timeline to the event and helps the event go smoother as well.
That's correct.
And let alone the ascension process in general. And so that's really fantastic. Really major, really huge.
Now, I got another important piece to share with you as well.
Please do.
Right, and this is on the 23rd of May. Right, and it's as early as yesterday. My partner Cian had this amazing download from Akashic Records. I want to read it out to you because it relates exactly what we're talking about. And it starts with this. Good afternoon, child. Beloved, we welcome you again to Shasta, 3rd time here, 4 Tutras. 3 is the Trinity, the culmination of work here. This is an important time for new energies have been flooding onto the Earth since August 2016, when you fire up this grid. The celestial light grid has paved the way for this to happen and for many new portals to be open around the planet where more light may be anchored. New grids and portals have been open here in Shasta since your last visit. You'll be guided to them. Tune into the energies, child. There are 3 new portals surrounding the Telos portal, new stargates. Many sentient beings have been journeying through these portals to help the ones below ground and to help humanity with their ascension. They are multidimensional holographic portals. Imagine multiple toroidal fields, 3 major, 12 minor, all intersecting with each other in multiple dimensions and planes. A meeting of heaven and earth, if you like. The Shasta Sacred Light journeys are a bridge for greater interactions with the Telosians. They need your help, and once they receive what you're about to share with them on your light journeys here, it will merge their consciousness with those among you on planet Earth who are vibrating at similar planes of consciousness. More of this is needed around the planet's sacred sites you're guided to. It will unfold, exponential upon exponential. Neither of you have any idea of the breadth of the work you are facilitating. 3 is a pyramid. Think of the energies generated by the Great Pyramid. As you link more and more sites and fire out more grids and connect them to major minor portals, there'll be an exponential acceleration of planetary consciousness. Note the transformation of all who've been on your Note the transformation of all who have been on your sacred light journeys at many levels. The shifts not only in their physical, emotional health, relationships, but also their consciousness and levels of flow, float, and abundance at many levels. This is simply a tangible expression of what can be achieved in the sacred light journey. Look at where these people were at when you first met them and note where they are now, how their lives and lives of others they have touched have significantly transformed. There's a whole list of people. Working with the lamps collectively and individual work with each one paves the way to come. There are new lamps coming which will accelerate this process. When new light codes, which we will channel through Richard, in new light programs are synced around the world and globe, you can have virtual sacred light journeys without people having to travel to sacred sites. Richard will know how to orchestrate this and create virtual sacred light journeys. He and a core group will run them at a sacred site. Example, Mount Kailash. When it is coordinated around the globe, people running mini sacred light journeys in each site, even with a single lamp, conduct at the same time. It'll be like they are at the sacred site. The effect will be multiplied exponentially several thousand-fold. This can only be achieved on an exponential virtual scale with the programs and light codes, which will go into new future lamps. And that's why your work is so important at sacred sites. The linking of celestial, non-celestial light grids in portals. The map you were shown a few years ago. This will be globally effected by the time you fire Montserrat. Now, this is talking about the Arcturian crystalline tree of life or planetary healing, which I believe I emailed you. This is the work of David Miller. And this is really key and critical. And I'm going around this tree, personally going to every one of these sites to do light activation work. And the whole idea is to go to Montserrat in 2020 and fire the whole tree up. And that's going to be huge. So, so
that's all
this
in preparation for that, basically.
It's all in preparation of that. And it's extremely profound. Now, the significance of Hawaii is that Maui is going to be the home in the future where the sacred light temple, the great light temple from the Lost Continent of Lemuria, is going to turn up again. Now, when this light temple turns up, it's going to be an etheric, energetic temple of light. It's crystalline light. So something that's crystalline light is not of this planet. So it's going to morph in and out of material form according to intention, requirements, etc. And it's not limited into a physical place or physical size. It'll have its own light, and the light that the temple will have will be beyond our visible spectrum. It'll have its own energy. You don't need to put music. It'll have its own sound. You don't put furniture in it. If you want to sit down and there's 1,000 people, you just lower your bum, a seat will form around for you. You want to lie down, you just lean over and you levitate like you're on a bed. And it's going to be extraordinary. There is a parcel of land in Maui that is designated to where this temple's going to come. We went on this land last week and did a walk there. I took my tribe down there. And then this lady, Dallas, who does dowsing, dialed in to get a reading on the land. She got a reading of 3,333, 4 threes, which is a reading higher than anything else that she's found on the planet by a few hundredfold. So it's really profound. And so, when I was there, I was able to connect with the land, connect with the temple, and the temple told me that it's not going to be restricted to one particular position. And you don't even have to prepare the land. Like if you want a helipad, you got to build one, put a concrete slab on it. Well, you do nothing like that with a light temple. It'll just turn up on a plot, and the land and ground around it will dematerialize and form to what's required.
I see.
So that's going to turn up in 10 years' time. And when it turns up, it's going to be a whole game changer on the planet in major, major ways.
That's really fantastic. Well, so to clarify, do you need more people to participate in this, in the building of all these light grids and these opening up of all these portals? Will that help?
Well, what happens, Jim, is this. People just turn up that resonate with this. I don't have to find them. I've got a whole tribe now following me around the planet doing all this work. So I don't even advertise what I'm doing now. I just put the word out amongst, my close circle, and they all put their hand up and turn up. For example, I normally have between 8 and a dozen that turn up these things. When I was in the big island of Hawaii, I had 24. Now I'm in Shasta. I've got 20 doing this with me at Shasta. So it's kind of taking life of its own and growing. And what will happen is that as I do talks like this, people will resonate with what I'm saying and feel called, and then they'll contact me, and that's how it all happens.
Well, speaking of that, which is where I was going to, do you want to give out any public?
Yeah, sure.
Where the best people can contact you with if they want to participate?
My current website for the light. Yeah. I mean, anybody that resonates with this, I welcome them to contact me. And then what happens is that, coming on these sacred light journeys and these exercise with me is not something where you can just put your hand up, pay your money, and turn up. It's a sacred calling. So First, people resonate with it. Then there's an interview process with me where I check in on where they're at, and see if the synergies line up for them to participate, etc. And then I go away, I do a meditation, I dial into source to get the green or red light from above before they turn up. And I run these events on strictly no profit. So I take money out of it completely. So people just pay for the lodging and the food, and they pay their own way to get there. So it's not a profit-making exercise at all, because, I consider this very, very sacred work. Consequently, I don't want any encumbrances on money involved in this. So that's how it works. Now, when I move to Maui, I plan to run these every month in Maui on different islands at different lengths and different levels. And this is in conjunction, too, with going around the planet at different sacred sites. So I've got to do Lake Titicaca, the Island of the Sun. I'm going to do the pyramids. I'm doing Uluru, the red rock in Australia, which is the solar plexus, the guts of Mother Gaia, in September. I've got to do Mount Fuji in 2019. I'm going to Moraine Lake in Banff National Park in June next month. So I'm going there to do an activation. And going to Lake Constance in Germany next year. So I've got a whole list of stuff I'm doing. And then what happens is that if people are interested, they contact me and I send them information.
Well, before you give out your public contact details, many listeners will be thinking to themselves right now, well, why don't you just do them all within the next 6 months or so to get things happening quicker? What would you say to that?
Very simple. I physically can't do it because of my schedule and all the other things I'm meant to be doing. That's number one. Number two, when it comes to time doesn't exist outside our head. It's only what we want. When it comes to the universe and the planet, time's irrelevant. It's all about, evolution. And the only thing that happens with evolution is movement, not time. So we'd like to see things speed up, but, this is because of, our conscious mind is locked into time and space. So my response to people is number one, the time doesn't matter as far as the planet's concerned. Number two, if we want to speed it up, it's our agenda, not Creator Source's agenda. Number three, you got to do this in divine timing, as guided, not on your timing. So that'd be my response to people that want to speed it up.
Any experienced grid worker will know that all these complex, multilateral, multidimensional processes of activating this over there, liberating that over here, shutting down this way over there, it's all done in a sequenced way, a specific sequence. And often, other grid workers that you know absolutely nothing about are doing Y in some continent somewhere, and for you to do X in the month that you're planning it, they need to finish Y first because one step supports the other or enables the other, and it's all being coordinated in the upper realms, if you will. But in the physical, as you know, we're quite more often than not oblivious to other important grid work that's being done around the planet by other grid workers that we have no idea about, but is that critical step that opens up or green lights your personal grid work project that you've been guided to do, and you often get stopped in doing it until X or Y is done first to enable you to move in and do what you're guided to do. And fascinating stuff, as you know. So I just want to add that in.
Precisely correct. What he's saying is precisely correct, and I will sum that up by using this mantra. Once you as a light worker clear who you are, what you're doing here, where you're going, what you do is then you mind your own business and do what you're meant to be doing as guided according to divine timing, and you make sure you're 100% channel of the divine. And then you mind your own business, you stay out of other people's business, and you let God do God's business and don't interfere with the process.
That's right.
So
that's right.
That's my mantra to people, and that's how I function.
And, I wanted to bring this up because, as you know, the general sentiment or feeling among the awake and aware portion of the population is, the event can't happen soon enough. It really needs to happen soon. There's so much suffering that's going on, and that needs to be stopped as soon as possible, and all that kind of stuff. Perfectly understandable, more than understandable, to feel that way.
Yeah.
And we all do. We all want the event, tonight. We want it yesterday.
The thing is we do.
Yep. Go ahead.
I was going to just add is that perspective changes when you go up and you get the cosmic perspective of everything. Then the timing is perfect, and you don't want it sooner. When you get the big picture at a holographic level of what's going on, the interrelation of everything, why it's all working, and why it needs to take this into play. And the other thing is that the suffering is just temporal, right? The suffering is our perception. And, and here's the definition of suffering that I can give you. Suffering equals pain plus attachment. If there's no attachment, there's no suffering. There's only pain. And then when there's pain, you just, sit with it, then it passes. But suffering happens when there's attachment.
Very true. Very true. Here at Ground Crew Command, we always advocate people to, more than anything else, focus on the internal healing and clearing, because, without doing that, it's hard to get to that state, that more aligned, healed, energetic, and empowered state, where you quite naturally see the higher level perspective, and which sort of removes a lot of the angst or desperation about the event happening sooner rather than later, and that kind of thing. So, I guess that was an important thing to add.
Yeah, but when you're clear what you're doing, and things are, and you are on your divine path. When you know you're fully on the divine path, you're clear what's going on, there is zero angst. That's my experience.
Yeah.
Right. When you got this clarity of what you're doing, and when you know how to be in the fifth dimension, but function and express your light in the third dimension, there is no angst.
Yeah, and this is something that naturally occurs, naturally sort of falls into line once, and this is my experience and many others, once you've cleared a lot of those negative events that we've all suffered from in this lifetime or that lifetime, and that perspective just pretty much appears. It just comes for many who reach that critical mass amount of healing and clearing. So that's the critical thing. We're all here to help heal Gaia, which is certainly a big part of it. But as the old adage goes, healer, heal thyself.
Exactly.
Okay? If you do that enough,
first yourself.
You do that enough, consistently enough, once a week or once a month or whatever, is based on your soul path. That pain or desperation around the event not happening yesterday, it either dissipates the more you progress in your healing and clearing, or it goes away altogether, and you just focus on what you need to do in terms of your soul path and purpose to bring about the event even sooner, and so let's use that to dovetail into what, first of all, give me the exact term, the proper name for the, is it actually called light alchemy machine or light machine? What do you call it?
Well, it's called different names. I call it a light alchemy machine because that's what I do, light alchemy. people use it as a meditation lamp, and it's got different names, flashing lights, etc. And so there's different names given to this technology. I'm the only one that I'm aware of doing the work with this lamp in the way I'm doing it. Because one of the things about everything in universe is light and sound. And the thing about light is that light is the source of all matter. So everything begins with light. All matter is fragments of light. So that's what's important there. And so when you look at what's going on with respect to creation and everything else, when you actually split an atom, you get light. When you bring an atom together, right, and you collapse the positron with the electron, you get light. So all matter is fragments of light. And so what we get from light is really important with respect to life and direction, messages, everything else. And most people on the planet are not aware of how important the sun is. The sun isn't just something that gives you visible light and heat. It's much, much, much more than that. There's a very powerful esoteric nature to light that's little understood by people. In terms of sustaining life, providing life, and the messages from light. Light codes from the sun is just amazing. And then the food we eat, with which particularly, vegetables like photosynthesis, green vegetables, that is actually embedded light code that we're ingesting energetically.
Yes.
So
definitely,
that's really powerful.
Very powerful. So, very and critical. So, all right, light alchemy machine. Now, we want to, here at Ground Crew Command, we're all about helping people return to their power. Transmute, heal whatever unaligned activity is going on internally to bring them to their power, realign themselves with who and what they really are. That's the big thing here at Grand Crew Command and at returntoyourtruth.com. And so let's talk a bit about how the light alchemy machine can help people do that as well, to not just for the sake of, clearing out negativity within their field and internal system, but again, shutting down whatever angst or pain is around, a given life situation a person may be in, around quote unquote waiting for the event and that kind of thing. That's what we want to help people with. It's one of our top priorities here. So, take it away in terms of what some of the results people have had that you can speak about regarding the use of light.
Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example of a person called Ron. He's one of the first people that blew me away in terms of results of the light. I'll tell you the story about Ron, which highlights what goes on. And this was in November 2012. We just had the light a month, and we were guided, and we had this opportunity to go to Melbourne to run an event with the light. And mind you, we were very, very new at this. Okay, so we were raw, very, very green. So I happened to give Ron 3 light sessions in a week. Now, Ron, when I met him, was this 63-year-old, retired gentleman. Okay, nice guy, but he was really, really down, dark, sad. His life was a mess. He was in a 37-year toxic relationship. Right, the relationship was so toxic that all his family and friends told him, "Get out, or they're going to carry you out in a box." But he couldn't do that. He couldn't bring himself around to do it. There's all the reasons, all the excuses, all the fear, and all that kind of stuff about it.
Let alone a probable vow around.
There's this huge block on that. And, we know many people in this kind of position and state. So I give him 3 light sessions. I don't do anything else. After the 3rd light session, he pipes up and says to me and my partner, CN, I feel so good within myself, I'm going to see my lawyer next week. And, that shocked the two of us because, when we first met him, he wasn't in that place and space. So I caught up with him 6 months later in the Brighton Yacht Club. And I had to look twice. And the reason why I had to look twice was because I could not recognize him. He was Ron.
Let me guess.
His whole energy had changed. He was happy. He was laughing, joking, carrying on. And I said, Ron, what happened to you? He said, best thing I ever did. I'm still going through the shit of the marriage, the separation, lawyers, everything else, but I've never looked back. I got my life back, and he was wrapped. So that's one example. And then what happens is that I've worked with so many people and been able to achieve profound healing with them with the light. And this is because I can dial into their nervous system, know what they're like. Someone who's been suffering depression for over 20 years. He'd been on drugs for that period in time. I worked with him over 2 weeks, and it all shifts dramatically, where he's able to ditch his drugs, and he's so impressed and blown away, he goes buys a lamp.
Wow.
And runs it as a business to help people. So, there's stuff like that happen. I've had people that have the light go, wow, this is amazing, and then buy one, and then it shifts their life, their relationships, and then they're able to move on and do some, great things in their life. Now, having said that, the light does not replace the inner work. So if people have unconscious anchors, fear, if they've got any entities locking them up or anything like that, the light does not. Traumas. The light does not remove them. What the light does is bring them up for you to look at. So I've had many experiences where people have had light experiences and it's made them feel uncomfortable because their stuff has come up. Yeah, that's right. That's happened. But what the light does is accelerate the shifting of your consciousness. So when you do the work in conjunction with the light, you get a much greater acceleration in terms of the results, the shifts that you can do. Like the
it's good that you mentioned that. Go ahead.
Yeah, the life that my partner Sian and I have now is just beyond dreams as a result of our light work. Okay. This current trip is our 21st trip in just over 6 years of being together. I had 6 overseas trips last year, and I, next month when I fly home, I would have been away 6 months, and had nothing short of an epic trip.
Yeah. Wow. Look, it's good that you bring that up. The fact that it's easy for people they fall in love with the next bright, shiny object that they come across. And it's happened to all of us. Okay. We're all probably guilty of this. And we often approach this with the mindset or belief that this thing is going to do it all for us. And as you said, there's sort of no such thing, because it will definitely help you a lot to a point where it made the difference. But ultimately, what's going to see you through in terms of your healing, evolution, and reactivation, when we'll get into reactivation later, is your own consciousness. Okay. The old saying goes, consciousness is king. Okay. And the one's consciousness needs to be able to keep up with the ramifications of all your stuff leaving or being transmuted and healed, DNA activation, and all that kind of stuff. Because you start to, when your consciousness goes high enough, a lot of the things that you've been, beliefs in ideologies, more of those truths start to come up and can make people pretty damn uncomfortable. So, and they can sort of pull back, if you will. So ultimately, a given method, whether it's a guided visualization or a command or a technology, such as the light alchemy machine, it's only going to do so much for you based on what your current level of consciousness can handle at this given one time. Okay. But ultimately, you got to raise your consciousness. You got to keep on putting some focus, at least, in opening up to knowing that there's always more. And then that way you'll be able to get even more out of whatever technology or practice you're using. And I'm sure you've got something to add to that by now, Richard.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing I haven't added yet for your listeners, everybody, is that this light is an amazing tool for quantum DNA activation. When I talk about quantum DNA activation, I'm not talking about the 12 strands of DNA. I'm talking about the 144 subatomic strands of DNA, energetic, that science doesn't know about. They can't measure it because it's at a level that they don't have any instruments to measure. And what I'm talking about is that... Yeah,
just
go
to
on.
clarify quickly,
Question?
okay, because I did, certainly at returntoyourtruth.com, we do DNA activation there as well. So to clarify, are you talking the subatomic particle DNA? Just to clarify, is it still physical in the physical DNA, or is it etheric DNA?
It is etheric DNA. Okay, so imagine each strand is physical. Right?
Yep.
Each strand is physical, has 12 etheric strands around each physical strand. So 12 by 12 is 144. And you can see what it's about when you read the book by Cryon, written by Lee Carroll, called The 12 Layers of DNA. Mm-hmm. And when you read that book, he goes in and explains at depth, the etheric nature of these strands. And this light technology is what's really powerful for activating these strands.
Fascinating. That's very fascinating because, like pineal gland activation, DNA activation is the biggest, holy grail, sexiest thing kind of in our community that a lot of people really look to and try to make happen for themselves. And it's certainly a big part of one's evolution, no doubt. And what you say certainly fits in with what many know about the non-physical DNA. Yes, you have the to clarify. So we got the 2 strands of physical DNA, and then let me see here, the other 12 non-physical strands of DNA associated with each of the physical.
Let's back up a bit.
Yeah.
Okay. There are 12 physical strands of DNA. 2, according to science, are activated. 10 are not.
Yes.
Okay, so that's one piece.
Okay, so those 10 are physical. Right. Now I'm with you.
No, there's 12. There's actually 12 physical.
Yes, 12 physical, because many people don't know that.
There's 12 physical strands of DNA. Okay, and you can actually see them in electron microscope, stuff like that. Now, around
that's what scientists refer to as the junk DNA. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So around
DNA,
around each of these physical strands are 12 etheric strands.
Mm-hmm.
So 12 by 12 is 144.
Yes. Got it.
And so that's what I'm talking about.
Yep. Understood. As you know, there's many different, let's just call them teachings around the issue of non-physical DNAs.
Correct.
And obviously, more discoveries are made each year, it seems. And obviously, you seem to be on the forefront of that. Now, so go on.
I am in my area. The area I'm in the forefront on is using light alchemy, which is the technology I'm using, to activate these subatomic etheric quantum strands of DNA. And I have a formula and process I'm working on in doing this. I've also got my own downloads in terms of what's involved with this DNA. Because you see, the etheric strands of DNA is multidimensional.
Yeah. Yes.
And
no doubt about
while
that.
they're while they're multidimensional, right?
Mm-hmm.
Activation
Yep.
of these DNA, right, is one thing, but do the changes stay is another whole different concept. Because,
I see.
when you look at the work of Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden, DNA is very susceptible to environment. So you activate DNA, right, and the person, and they feel a shift, they go back to their environment, the DNA regresses.
I see. Okay, that's critical.
So that happens as well.
Okay,
See, so
and you're working.
You've got to look at the physical and the esoteric, etheric aspect of DNA.
I see. I see.
And DNA is not a switch. You can't switch it on and off.
I see. Interesting.
And there's also one very important thing to note, and that is this, and I'm going to say this twice. DNA is the first phase of light codes morphing into matter.
Yep.
I'll say it again. DNA is the first phase of light codes morphing into matter.
Yes.
Then what happens with DNA activation is that you can't measure it. You don't know it's happening. The only way you know what's happened is by the results in people's lives. Goes back to biblical principle. How do you know a fruit of a tree? By partaking of it.
Yeah, certainly. Okay,
and I've got 3 core foundations of DNA activation, right? You can do energy and doing activation, but people need to, number one, reduce the density and increase the resonance of their light body. That's a core foundation. They got to do that.
Yeah.
Then number 2, have clear intentions and high vitality and energy. And number 3, connect in oneness with nature. So they're the 3 core foundations of doing any DNA activation work that the person has to have as a lifestyle for them to actually embody all the benefits of any work in this particular area.
Yeah, let alone maintain any
exactly.
activations.
Exactly.
Okay, so you're working on I suppose call it protocols or program where you're working on activating people's DNA and maintaining that level of activation and only going up from there in a progressive, methodical way. So that's what you're developing at the moment. Is that correct?
Yeah. That's why I'm running. That's why I'm doing a 7-day sacred light journey right now with my tribe, my group of people. So the first day is an all-day meditation. For them to get out of their head, connect with nature, get in the right space. Then I run into a 5-day sacred light journey, and part of this whole process is a ritual where you get up to sun gaze in the morning, you do some movement, you have good high energy food all the way throughout, you have a light session in the morning, you have meditation, and then you do journaling. Then in the afternoon there's teaching or we go outings, and then in the evening we have a group light journey and more teachings and stuff like that. And then throughout this time, I do individual work on people because I dial in on where they're at their level of consciousness, their relationship with money, abundance, where they're stuck, what kind of work they need. And sometimes the inner work, a lot of people gets blocked because they get to a particular anchor or block that they can't shift themselves, and they need help to do that.
Right.
So I find that with a lot of people. So when they come on my sacred light journey with me, we take care of these things.
Yeah, that's right. And people have to be aware, again,
exactly.
Heavily preached on return to your truth, where, you can go ahead and activate DNA and do it quite successfully. But as you start to accrete a hell of a lot more light, through your DNA as a result of them getting more activated. And what happens? Your overall system, the frequency of your overall system starts to increase manyfold, and anything up below a dense baggage or unresolved issue, whatever you want to call it, starts to slip out. And if you're not sort of doing some sort of spiritual practice or energy internal work that helps facilitate that, especially when this dense baggage hits a block, That's when the road to evolution can get a bit difficult.
Yeah, you're exactly correct. Now, what I like to do is read out a paragraph from my Akashic records that explains exactly what you're saying. It goes like this: DNA activation is not a switch. It is something that is happening all the time as DNA in the body is responding to the environment 24/7.
Yeah.
Light codes from the sun and what is taken as food and any energy work is all the time interacting with the body. A blocked channel cannot function in its true natural state as a receiver and transmitter of light codes that is connected to Mother Gaia and the cosmos. That's why people have to do the work and release the unconscious anchors that limit them.
Yeah. Commonly, traumas, beliefs, vows, agreements, the usual stuff that we're all familiar with.
All that stuff.
That everyone should be, clearing the next layer of at least once a month. Once a week is recommended in just a 1 hour self-healing session, or when they come up, or as they come up. That's so critical, and that then enables you to get even much more out of a device like the light alchemy machine. So let's just say there's a few good online energy healers and practitioners that people can go to.
Of course.
And I'm obviously going to be biased, and before I ask for your contact details, returntoyourtruth.com is really proven itself in that regard. People can check out the testimonials there. Now, what's your public contact detail that you want to give out, Richard?
Well, the website of my technology at the moment, the best one is the Lucia Light, which is what I'm not using at the moment, but that has all the information in terms of the technology. And it's www.lucialight.com. But the best way to contact me is my email address, which I'm going to give you. And that is RJY, which is Romeo Juliet Yankee 737 at Gmail. So that's RJY 737 at gmail.com. So that's the best way for people to contact me, anyone that's interested.
Yeah, and the website is lucialight.com, LUCIA light, LIGHT.
That talks about all the .com. And that explains all about the technology, everything else, etc.
Yeah, okay. Now, is that your personal distributorship website, or?
No, I'm not running that at the moment. So, that's just information for people. If people want to know more about the light, etc., and what we're doing, best for them to, email me and contact me, and I'll have a conversation with them.
Okay, so if people want to purchase one for their own personal healing use and journey, they would email you. Is that correct?
Best come and talk to me. At the moment, it's not quite at a price point for everybody yet. At $5,200 US, it's not the kind of thing you go and buy for your home. In the future, there will be one for the home, but not yet.
Okay. Well, certainly. Okay, and with regards to DNA activation, that's something that you're still sort of. Are you testing it on people? Are you testing it on yourself? What's the story there?
I'm doing it on myself, and what I'm doing is doing the process in people that come with me, and then I monitor, medium to long-term results on them, because that's the only way you can find out. And there's different ways you can actually test energetically. You can do muscle testing, you can do dowsing, you can use a pendulum, that kind of stuff. But really, the bottom line is, where's your consciousness at? And the only way you can dial in on that is the results in your life. Like, for example, are you still stuck in a matrix? Are you able to move? What freedom have you really got to be able to do things? And what kind of impact's happening in your life? And, what's showing up? How are you stepping up? All these kind of things.
That's right. So, and that's the kind of thing where a bit of counseling is needed, at least once or twice.
So So that's why I've got my coaching program. I've got a transformational consciousness coaching program. So I do that to help people, in shifting their consciousness.
Yep, certainly. Okay, well, one other thing that people really want to be able to do is switch on more of their higher senses, to be more, or simply to be psychic, reliably psychic, to be able to see the non-physical whenever they choose to tune into that, which of course helps with their own internal healing work as well. What could the light alchemy machine offer in that area? And I know it strongly overlaps with DNA activation, because as you activate DNA, more of those natural capacities, return and get switched on as well. But I think it's important for people that we speak specifically on those abilities, so that people aren't always hamstrung and having to book someone just to get good psychic information and that kind of thing, for their empowerment.
Well, first of all, we're talking about activating the 7 higher senses. Okay? Mm-hmm. So we've got the 5 senses that we know of: sight, hearing, touch, smell, taste. Then after that, there are 7 higher senses, which go into the the category of psychic abilities, etc. And I will put that in the category of developing your inner guidance and knowing. When you develop your inner guidance and knowing, you don't have to consult nobody, because you have your own internal compass of exactly what to do and to know. Now, being able to see energy and and look in the future, all that is nice. However, what's really important is for you to have spiritual guidance internally. For you to make your own decisions and chart your path, and it's about being connected to the universe and Mother Gaia and the planet Earth. And so what the light technology will do will be to accelerate that process in conjunction with people doing the work that they need in their lifestyle changes. So, I have a simple formula. Mm-hmm. The formula I have is the 5 elements and the 5 S's. The 5 elements is air, earth, sun, water, spirit. So go out in nature, meditate. Beach is fantastic. I love the beach. Then the 5 S is stillness, silence, solitude, sacred space. Now, what the light does is accelerate people going into this zone, and it also deepens the level people can go into this zone after a light session. That's what this technology does. And so the more you do this, the greater will be your ability to tune in. And that's where the rubber meets the road.
That's right.
So this is what I suggest for people.
Yes, because it all comes down to clearing up and reestablishing that solid connection with one's higher self, and perhaps the high dimensional aspect of one's of oneself. And tuning in is obviously the mechanism, if you will. And so you're saying that the light alchemy machine just really amplifies one's ability to tune in.
Absolutely.
Provided they follow all of those straightforward, commonsensical sort of protocols, if you will.
Well, let me give you a really good analogy, okay? Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. When you got a motor car, your engine has a certain amount of power to get you from A to B. All right? Yeah. Put a supercharger on your engine, all of a sudden it's got a whole lot greater power. You can get there faster, you can climb hills harder, etc. But you still got to drive the car.
That's right.
So it's like
that's where your consciousness comes in.
Yeah.
The raising of your consciousness has to be sort of occurring, constant.
Exactly.
And
the other thing I would say also
DNA activation. So I was just going to say, to round it off, DNA activation helps with consciousness raising, but you sort of got to do the work of raising your consciousness and being more open-minded and all that kind of thing as well, and they sort of feed each other and support each other synergistically.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you can hop your car, put a turbocharger, supercharger on it, but if you don't get behind the wheel, the car doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, that's real. That's exactly right. Or another way to put it is, put a very inexperienced driver behind the wheel, you might have an accident.
That's correct.
Put a very well experienced race car driver, which is the equivalent in this analogy of a high consciousness, and you can do a lot.
Absolutely. You got it.
Run rings around people. Yeah. So, okay. Well, Richard, thank you very much. I think we've covered not just the fundamentals of the Gridwork side of things and how that's impacting and helping Gaia and humanity to continue to cruise along the fastest timeline to the event, which your work, no doubt, is greatly contributing to. But also, I think we've answered and covered most of the top burning questions or desires people would want to ask about this particular machine. So, is there anything else? Any, I suppose, parting bit of information people normally need about this before we say goodbye for now and move on to the new section? No rush.
Well, I will just add one big profound thing. I'm in Shasta right now on the base chakra of the planet. I'm going to connect with the Lemurians in Telos. We're going to do some serious work on putting light and facilitating, energizing the event.
Awesome. Okay, that's really great to hear. Very uplifting and inspirational to hear. I guess that's what we all want to hear and see. And you're one great example of light workers / grid workers doing, adding their piece to the puzzle to make our journey to the event as fast as possible, but as smooth as possible. With all these processes that need to occur as, I suppose, prerequisites to enable the event and our ascension back into 5D. The planet's a big thing. Humanity's a big thing.
Indeed.
Lots of moving parts to it.
Indeed.
And,
very much so.
Yeah. So as long as we all follow our calling and do our part when required to, it'll happen. It will happen in the fastest and smoothest way possible. The 21st of December 2012 activation of the Giza pyramids that the team that I'm involved with did with Cobra was another great example of that, which erased the primary negative timelines. And we can go on. So many examples about every step in the sequence supports the next step and green lights the next grid workers move to fulfill the next step in the sequence.
That's correct.
So well done, Richard. Well done. And I mean that sincerely. So once again, folks, it's lucialight.com, LuciaLight.com. And what was your email address again, Richard?
It's rjy737 at gmail.com.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, it's been great having you on. This is the kind of thing we want to talk about, and I'll have to be speaking to you real soon, and have you back on the show in a few weeks or a few months, whatever the case may be, for some important updates. Because, as you know, we're on that exponential sort of upwards curve where there's more that gets done and activated, which increases or amps up the synergy of all these things. And so we do expect to see an acceleration of, events in general, as you know.
That'd be great.
Yeah. So thanks again. And we're going to take a short break now, folks, only 40 seconds. And Richard, big hugs from us and the team at returntoyourtruth.com. And we'll talk soon.
Great. All the best. Take care. Bye.
Likewise. All right. Bye for now. Okay, folks, that was Richard Yap with the light alchemy machine, really, blazing a trail, it seems. And that's the kind of guests we have on this show on a regular basis. So, short break now, and we'll be back within 60 seconds for the news part of the show. Don't go away. Okay, this is the Unknown Light Warrior. You are listening to Ground Crew Command Radio on every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And so now there's just a few things we need to address regarding the geopolitical developments, both hidden and not so hidden. So, okay, first of all, we will get to the whole Pope publicly worshipping Lucifer video that's been going around. We're going to get down to the bottom of that because, as the old saying goes, things are not quite as they seem. And so much to cover. Now, we got leaks coming out from the Contact in the Desert event that just occurred with David Wilcock, based on his insiders, saying that 86% of Congress are members of NAMBLA, which is the acronym for North American Man-Boy Love Association, basically pedophiles. And again, this is what we're all, in our own transmutational way, fighting against to bring about to an end. Now, many of us already know this sort of thing. I mean, last time I heard, it was 73% of Congress and the Senate are pedophiles, literally. And is it any surprise that things are the way they are with individuals such as that in our infesting our political institutions? So you got to remember half the reason why there's so many. There's a majority of these guys in Congress and in the Senate is the Cabal uses the fact that they're a pedophile to always control them, okay, to blackmail them and that kind of thing. Otherwise, I mean, generally speaking, they wouldn't allow anyone else to rise to a long-term or even a short-term position in Congress or the Senate. If you're not a pedophile or if you haven't done something negative or committed some sort of a crime in your past, they generally do a lot to try to stop you from rising to becoming a congressman or congresswoman or a senator, because they won't have anything against you. And if you do still make it to Congress or the Senate, they will threaten you. Okay, they'll threaten you. There was one state legislative member her son was killed because she was trying to expose the pedophile rings running through the court systems in a particular state, and so there you go. You know, she this particular legislative member, if I can get it out, was never a pedophile. So they go to the other extreme. And classical mobster mafia behavior, classical gangster behavior. Now, so many of you already know this. It's mostly pedophiles in Congress and Senate, which is why I won't be speaking any more about it, because it's important to get into the whole Trump thing. To many of us, we're still fairly divided, whether he's working for the light or whether he's working for the Cabal. And it's actually a good thing that he's got both sides guessing, okay? Because, well, let me put it this way. So he was in Saudi Arabia, okay, which is part of the whole $350 billion arms deal, okay, and he asked the Saudis to keep selling their oil in US dollars to prevent the collapse of the US corporate government and its petrodollar system. So far, it looks like he's working for the Cabal, right? Well, there's a possibility he may be, with a bit of help from positive factions, there's a real possibility he may be playing both sides. Okay, it's a tricky thing to verbalize, because in the example of asking the Saudis to keep on using the petrodollar system, all right, so is it a good thing if the US Fed dollar collapses prematurely? Okay, and who will benefit more if that was to happen, if things aren't ready to go? You know, so-called treasury notes aren't ready to go because effectively it'll require a financial reset for that to go smoothly. It may cause chaos if things aren't 100% ready and the US dollar collapses as a result of, you know, it not being used to trade oil with. So it's important to keep that in mind. There is a certain degree of just playing along with things, playing along with the status quo, within reason, of course, because once again, I mean, just off the top of my head, the plasma topper bombs, the Chimera, threatened to detonate. If things, you know, if some big trigger event occurs that forces the event, you know, are we ready for that? And God knows we're really close to it, but are we there completely? You know, have all the plasma topper bombs been safely removed? You know, we got now the White Hats really are doing everything they can. This time, you know, we got Jared Kushner, the Luciferian. He's already under an FBI Russian probe, according to Ben Fulford sources, over illegal bribes for Saudi arms deal, which was announced by Trump. You know, he's effectively an Israeli agent, and certainly not of the positive faction within Israel. You know, to provide nukes to menace Iran with. Now, notice how the Cabal, i.e. mainstream media, really attacked the hell out of him just because he mentioned about laptops being used as weapons on airliners with Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister. Well, does it have anything to do with the fact that the White Hats are exposing Israeli Cyber Command, a particular unit of the Israeli Cyber Command, that have engineered laptops to hijack and crash airliners, leading to more calamity, which only suits the Cabal, suits the Cabal's agenda. So now you know why. Came down on him like a ton of bricks over him mentioning about the whole laptop thing to the Russian foreign minister. Now, so you're seeing him do all these apparently bad things, but then you see him doing good things, such as that example. And he really does have to play a game of sort of keeping both sides sort of guessing, because he, in the position that he's in, he can't just come out with all guns blazing and and calling for the arrest of all the Cabal members and pedophiles and so forth, because the deep state still needs to be cleaned out in a controlled, non-chaotic way for things to get to that. Okay, it really is like Gridwork. Like one particular grid point can't be done without something else preceding it that enables it, the aforementioned to be done first. So it's all done in a certain order, both sides of things, both the esoteric side and the not so esoteric side of planetary liberation. It's all sequencing. And, so the war on the deep state continues. It really needs to be cleaned out in a methodical, controlled way so that things don't blow up. Otherwise the Cabal, in particular the Chimera, because the Cabal has already tried to pull Doom 33, which is basically World War III, it really doesn't have that at its disposal, but it'll continue to try. It's the Chimera that are the real worry, that are the real problem. And they are being dealt with. You don't necessarily have to worry, per se. This is not a message of fear. But the deep state needs to be cleaned out in a controlled way. And again, Anthony Weiner, Huma Aberdeen are the latest now turning over evidence against Hillary Clinton and the pedophile network in DC. And that'll create a situation where Clinton will be forced to tell all and tell everything she knows and turn over, her evidence and everything she knows about, the deep state and bringing down the deep state and all this, again, in a sequence sort of style, one building block on top of another will lead to Rome. It'll all lead to Rome, the P2 Freemason Lodge, the BIS, and of course the bloodline families. And so it all needs to be done in an orderly way as possible, because it's a volatile situation. You've got to keep that in mind. It's a volatile situation. If one side makes too big a move too fast, the other one will react in kind to the same extent, to the same extreme. And that's where the volatility issue comes in. So the big move will occur. It is coming. But what has to occur first is that necessary level of purging and clearing of the deep state, for example, needs to have been accomplished so that the big moves can be safely done against the Cabal, because the Cabal, after all these purgings, will be too much of a disempowered state to be able to react to the same extent. And it's a critical strategy that the White Hats are having to employ, and they're employing quite well, all things considering. And so just understand that, okay? We need to, as the old saying goes, drain the swamp enough where the big moves can be done without the Cabal really causing a train wreck.
particularly the Chimera. It's more the Chimera that's sort of holding up the Cabal now. Like I said, they've tried Doom 33, and they've been stopped. It's the, as I said in past episodes, it's all about the Chimera and their Toplet bombs. They're now purging the FBI. That's the kind of thing that has to happen first, so that, what's remaining of the FBI, which still be the majority, can do its job uninterfered. Not held back, not trying to do its job with one arm tied around its back. How can you? Have the mass arrests occur if institutions like the FBI have got a certain percentage, albeit a minority percentage, of Cabal puppets. So it's important to have this perspective that it's a sequenced methodical process, just like Gridwork. Now, let me see here. I'll just quickly cover the fact that the Cabal, it continues to find a way to get money to support its whole system. Its most recent attempt has been trying to get the Japanese emperor to release funds in their hands, and Ben Fulford understandably has concluded the financial system will just have to be wrestled out of their hands, okay, let them do whatever they need to do to get to the certain point. They are continuously preparing the infrastructure, the alternative financial infrastructure, in case the Cabal literally do shut down all the mainframe computers that powers the current financial system. If they get desperate enough, they'll try to do that. Now, they haven't up until now because they'll screw themselves up. They'll screw themselves. But again, just like with the Chimera and their plasma Toplet bombs, you just never know. We need to play this safe. This is the whole planet we're talking about. Okay, so really the alternative financial system, its infrastructure, it's pretty much in place. Okay, and again, if I were just forcing the shutdown of the Cabal-controlled financial system and rebooting or starting up, causing the financial reset by just switching on the alternative financial infrastructure, again, how well will that work if the bad guys are still at large? Okay, they still need to be physically grabbed. Those who won't surrender in time, they still need to be physically grabbed and put into jail. All these secret negative groups need to be rounded up, put in jail. Otherwise, they'll spend the next 5, 10, 15 years worming their way back into power, into the alternative financial system. It'll be a lot harder for them to do that because it'll be a transparent financial system, but nonetheless, we know what they're like. So they need to be put away, and the work required to purge and therefore prepare the law enforcement agencies and the deep state to carry out this big move, it's, as you know, is happening. So keep that in mind. Perspective really is everything when it comes to the seeming chaos of the geopolitical mess at the moment. Now, just quickly to clarify something that's been doing the rounds online, it's gone viral, the whole Pope worshipping Lucifer video. Last time I checked, it's gotten 3.5 million views, although that's over a period of 3 years. So one thing to clarify here is the words in Latin don't actually mean Lucifer. Now, and here's what I mean by that. I'll try to read it out in Latin because we made sure we got it properly, translated. And by the way, I'm not at all implying that the Pope is maybe a good guy. Okay, no, he's acting like a good guy. He's not. Now, yes, there is a possibility he may switch over to the light side, but he hasn't really done that. So, and I'll get into that in a minute. So the proper English translation, okay, of those Latin hymns is "The of the morning star is dawning," okay, meaning Christ, officially anyway, meaning Christ is coming to earth. And then he goes on to say, and I won't even bother trying to read out the Latin words, it's just too difficult. Then he goes on to say, "The morning star, which does not ever set," according to Catholic, text, is referring to Christ again. And then he just goes on to say, "Christ, your son," apparently addressing Virgin Mary, who ascended after death and illuminated the people with the light of peace. So that's what's actually sung in those lyrics that are shown in text on that video. Now, so they do use the word the morning star. And as we know, Lucifer is referred to by Luciferians as morning star. Now, this doesn't necessarily prove that it's some sort of a Luciferian hymn or ritual, because morning star was also, before the Dark Ones hijacked it, morning star was Christ, referred to as Christ. Now, the thing to realize is, the MO of the bloodlines and their orders is they hijack names, like ISIS being the latest example. They hijack 666, which is not the devil's number or the mark of the beast or whatever. That was originally the numbers of Isis, of the goddess archetype. Okay, Horus, Osiris, all that kind of thing. They hijack and then subvert their meanings, their teachings. And you can argue that their application or use of the term morning star, in terms of what they mean by it, publicly they say, yes, they're referring to Christ as the morning star. Internally, privately, it's quite possible they may be meaning morning star as in Lucifer. Very true, but it doesn't necessarily, prove anything. You can't prove that video, in terms of that, as far as that video is concerned, as a Luciferian ritual. One thing that is far better proof, arguably proof, that the current Pope is indeed dark, is not so much that it's just the fact that he's a Jesuit, but if you go to the head church of the Jesuits, the mother church of the Jesuits in Rome, you will see for yourself with your own eyes, physically, the black sun. Okay, at the top there in the altar. Okay, and I know this for a fact because I've been at that church. Okay, and it's a black sun. It's got a thin golden boundary around it with golden rays coming out. Like metal in the form of metal rays coming out, and in the middle it's black. I can guarantee you that, and that's blatant black sun worship proof. That's the proof that the current Pope is dark. And Ben Fulford correctly, reminded people that, the Pope hasn't really been making any real changes. He's no doubt, and as Cobra said as well, he's making himself look good by going after pedophiles, which, he had no choice. There was just too much skeletons in the closet of the Catholic Church that were just too visible, coming out, whether he liked it or not. So he had to act. But he's tried to use that to his advantage. So to make himself look good. But is he, with regards to so-called purgings within the certain orders, is he really going after the negative or positive Templars, for example, and Knights of Malta? We won't really know for sure. Now, we know, again, sources have been publicly revealing that most world leaders are controlled by the P2 Freemason Lodge via the Vatican Bank and assassins. And, well, we don't see Pope Francis doing anything about that, stopping that from happening. Because if he did, rest assured, it would have been reported all over the alternative media, much less through sites like Cobra and Ben Fulford's sites and Veterans Today, but that hasn't happened. So the White Hats will continue to do what they do, and we will continue to do what we do, which is our global meditations, again, tomorrow at 11 a.m. EDT. Just look it up on prepareforchange.net. It's on the right-hand side of that article. Join in. Do what you're guided to do to bring in more light into this realm through the veil, to transmute the energies and darkness itself. Follow your guidance in that. And if that's still a struggle for you, you have resources. Of course, our sponsor, which is certainly one great resource. You can just look at the testimonials, returntoyourtruth.com. Okay. To help clear and heal and move more into your power to be a more powerful transmutational force. So keep that in mind. Now, I'm going to go overtime here with regards to our weekly empowering 5-minute energetic exercise. So just go to the recording, which will get posted in as little as half an hour to get the overtime. So again, that never changes. Focus more on yourself, on your own inner work, healing and clearing. Find the best ways, the best resources to do that to make yourself a more powerful transmuter and anchorer of light. So make it happen. And don't forget to join us next Wednesday, 9 p.m. for another great show. And so now we're just going to, for those who are listening to the recording, we're just going to go into the exercise. Let me just put on the music briefly for those who are listening live. See you next Wednesday at 9 p.m., folks. Join us then. Okay, now, sorry for the live listeners. Now, if you're listening to this recording, we're just going to do a 5-minute energetic exercise, and it's an important one. It's one of the basic fundamentals of helping to move things along in the fastest and smoothest possible way to the event, and that is transmuting. Now, Cobra himself has been quoted as saying the number one and primary purpose of a light worker is to transmute darkness. So take a deep breath, and this will only take a few minutes. See yourself, or visualize yourself, seeing yourself from a distance, but with just a white background. Okay, this is a critical fundamental skill that you have the capacity for. See yourself however many, 50 yards away or 50 meters away from the front or from the side. It doesn't really matter. This is what you want to use whenever you're not feeling right, when you're not, relatively calm, relatively okay, at peace, present. Because if you're not feeling that way, it simply means, that you're not alone. Something external or something internal is sort of there in your field. And so see yourself there with a white background, and whatever negative emotion you may be feeling, or even if you're just not very present, or even if you're feeling tired, whatever the symptom may be, comes up in all different forms. A particular worry, a particular concern that doesn't go away, whatever the case may be. Just imagine yourself, see yourself there, and just almost imagine, I'm going to use that term, almost imagine something causing you to feel this way. It could be an amorphous kind of energy, dark plasma shimmering around your aura. It could be a negative entity in some etheric form or shape. It could be a cord, So just allow whatever image starts to form, allow it to just form around you. Okay. And if you're still not really seeing anything, I'll use another trick of words and say, just whatever comes to your mind. Okay. See it in a sort of small size, somewhere around you, whatever comes to your mind. And now what you're going to do is you're going to transmute it with your light. Okay. Or you can ask your guides, your teams, whoever you're associated with, if you know about them yet. You can ask them, help me transmute that. Show it all. And don't worry about if you see something else. Just focus on the first thing that came up. Okay, that's probably the highest priority. And just, quote unquote, visualize it turning white into bright white light. You can see from a different angle if it works for you, whatever comes to your mind. This is where you got to allow the right hemisphere of your brain to just allow it to flow in a creative, feminine way. And see it getting pretty bright. It's now shining bright white light. You can change the color of all the background if that works for you. You've got your say here. You can call the shots here on how to do things in whatever way works for you. And then as it shines brightly, I beg your pardon, all of a sudden, see it disappear. It's white, and all of a sudden it's gone. And now we're going to track back to its source and transmute the source so it doesn't reappear. Something else that doesn't reappear in its place. And the source, you can use the same technique if you want to. I just visualize a small convulsing sort of dot of light, way up above your head for a few seconds. And this represents the source its source being transmuted. And then watch that convulsing little dot of light or little ball of light, just all of a sudden going really bright, bursting into a bright star, like a beautiful star, beautiful point of light. Don't worry about, doing this perfectly or thinking if you're all being worried about whether you're doing this right or if you're doing it the right way. It's not really about that. It's about allowing your mind to calibrate and attune itself to find its way of doing this. And sort of follow that. It's sort of like experiment. Experiment with what works for you. Play around with what works for you in terms of visualizing it. And like riding a bike, you get better at it. And it's important to practice this. Once each morning before beginning your day or whatever the case may be. So this is a very fundamental skill and ability, and a very natural one at that, for light workers to have. Now, it is true, some of us, it's our role, particularly the feminine types, our role is simply to do nothing per se, but just be on the physical plane and just channel goddess energies without even thinking about it, 24/7. Some of us, yes, that's all we're here to do, and that's all that we're designed to do. But many of us, if not the majority, are here for very deliberate and conscious transmutation of darkness. And so it's an important ability to develop, to cultivate. Remember, this is your natural ability and a big part of your soul path, why you're here for. So, and if you haven't already, you can just allow that bright shining star representing the transmutated source or that entity or cord, whatever the case may be. You may want to check for a bit of each. That disappear as well. And you can do this. You can check, is there any, black plasma infecting your aura? If you do see that, in whatever shape or form it is, it could be just, thin, curved lines around your aura or within your aura, whatever the case may be. Again, allow your mind to interpret what's actually there in a way that you'll understand, that you have the reference points for, okay? It doesn't have to be precise in terms of how it actually looks on the non-physical spectrum. Your mind knows it's there and it'll show it to you in a way that you'll understand it. That's generally how it works. And see that shimmering black plasma or that black cord turning bright white light, and then disappearing. So play around with this, each morning or each night for about 10 minutes. It's a critical natural, innate ability to bring forth once again out of you and help humanity from that loving place of your heart. And on that note, please check out our sponsor, returntoyourtruth.com. Check out the testimonials. Check out their presentation videos. Really interesting stuff. You can do a lot there. in terms of your accelerating the soul path and purpose and evolution. And I'll see you next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time in the US. And go for it. This is the Unknown Light Warrior. You're listening to Ground Crew Command. Till next time, folks.